Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And hang on one second. Oh, why that loop is on. Joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'd like to start off the show looking like this a little bit today.
There you go. I like the all-star feel.
Yeah. I was just trying to give it a little all-star vibe for the All-Star Game. I had this big chain. Kind of reminds me a little bit of those chains that they give to the home run derby winner every year. So it just looks kind of cool to start the show with. I wear it at every game I go to now ever since I bought it at Citi Field.
Yeah, man. And to quote former Met manager Jerry Manuel, that's gangsta.
Yeah,
I like it, man. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
There you go. So you got the regular specs back on. You got your big Mets chain coming off a big couple of days from Major League Baseball, Dan, as we had a lot of news with the All Star Game and the Home Run Derby the other night. What is your favorite event from this whole All Star fiasco they got going on?
Well, usually every year the home run derby is usually always fine. I have to say I like. Of course, also the game has some great moments. Also, that's some fun moments. Course also I do have to say I wish they would have brought a little more legends when they do the Celebrity and Legends game. They do after the Futures game. I know it's the last couple of years they haven't. It's been mostly reality show and TikTok stars. It used to be more fun when you actually sort of somewhat knew the names of some of the stars, and you had some baseball legends.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and even just some real celebrities too. These YouTubers and TikTokers. Who gives a crap?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I can think of are people like my sister. Like, I know my sister knows who JoJo Siwa is because she was obsessed with that show Dance Moms when it was around.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense.
That's the only reason I know who she is because I've seen sometimes my sister I found my sister watching that show, and when I was watching the Celebrity Legends game, she easily recognized her from that. But aside from that, some of these stars, I don't know who the fuck they are.
Yeah, it's true, man.
At least last year, one of the people taking part in it was Bryan Cranston, the guy who played guy who was starred in one of the greatest shows of all time. Which, by the way, if you're living under a rock, if you haven't watched Breaking Bad, I don't know when you're living under a rock, definitely give it a watch.
Oh, I thought you were talking about how he was the dentist on Seinfeld.
Well, yeah, that's true. He was a dentist on Seinfeld, but
I'm kidding. Obviously, everybody knows him from Breaking Bad. No, but you're 100% right, man. And hey, it'd be nice if they brought out some big time celebrities like Bryan Cranston. You're 100% right.
As a matter of fact, I would welcome it, Commissioner Rob Manfred, whoever makes this decision, invite us to take part in it. Next year in Texas, invite us to All Star Week in Texas. Invite us to take part in their Celebrity and Legends game. I think that'd be cool for us to be teammates in that game. Hopefully, there'll be some Mets legend that'll join us, but it would be cool for us to be teammates in that game. Am I right?
Absolutely, man. That would be amazing. Maybe, that is a really interesting idea where maybe Major League Baseball, I mean, if you look around baseball, there are plenty of really great, really interesting and fun baseball podcasts made by fans just like me and you. So maybe Major League Baseball, it would be a smart move to kind of get, a group of their, the better podcasters or radio guys or anything like that are fans of the teams, and bring them together and maybe have like a baseball game for shows like ours.
Yeah, I would love that if they did that. But I would love that. Like that'd be cool to be in it. Like when I look at the Celebrity Legends games, that'd be kind of cool to be in that game. Me, the both of us.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And they have plenty of room too. I mean, they really only do the All-Star festivities for a couple of nights there. You would definitely be able to squeeze in an extra day or two of certain, events like that if they really wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Believe me, I'd be going full on Rocky training montage to get ready for that game.
No doubt about it, man. Playing on a big league field, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, yup, exactly. I'd be showing those people in Texas next year, be in Texas. Be showing them how we do it in Flushing, baby.
You got that right, man. And we had. It's funny too, because we're talking about the All Star game. You obviously had the glasses that they gave you, the sunglasses, out at Citi Field for the All Star game 10 years ago, right?
Yep, exactly. It was when the when the free giveaways. And if I would have known you then, I would have grabbed an extra pair for you.
I appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, it's true. We were about a year away until we met around that time. But yeah, so what I was wondering though, Dan, it's like, it's crazy how drastic baseball has changed in the 10 years since since we had the All-Star game at Citi Field. If you look around and you see, obviously this pitch clock, is in there. We didn't have a pitch clock 10 years ago. Obviously we got this crazy, stupid extra inning, base runner rule. Didn't have that 10 years ago. We have the universal DH. Didn't have that 10 years ago. And obviously they have all the shift, where you can't, overshift and everything with the defense. What do you think, Dan? Yeah, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
There's one more change that I think that I'm not quite enthusiastic about. I don't mind those special jerseys on like Home Run Derby Day and stuff, but when they're warming up on Home Run Derby Day. But the All-Star game, let the players wear their team uniforms.
Thank you, Dan. I could not agree more. That you just hit a home run on that one, because I forgot to add that to my notes. So thank you for bringing that up, because you're 100% right. For all the little festivities, the home run derby, all this and that, I totally get wearing the American jersey or the National League jersey, whichever one you represent. But for the All-Star game, it's, you want to see your guys go out there in their uniform. I don't want to see Pete Alonso going out there in some crappy Mariners looking, but it's not really a Mariners uniform. Like I don't want to see that. I want to see Pete Alonso in his pinstripe orange and blue uniform, just like, right?
Yeah, actually, if it was being done like that, since the National League was a visiting team, they'd be wearing their Met players would have been, the Pete and the Singa would have been wearing the visiting. They would have been wearing the road gray.
That is true, but you know what I mean. You want to see our guys wearing our colors, right?
Yeah, I don't mind if they do like special All-Star game caps. Like, remember the past All-Star games, it would be the Mets caps, but it'd be like the team colors, but it'd be a special design for the All-Star game. I don't mind a special design for the All-Star game. They could come up with some. They get, like, for example, next year I wouldn't mind if they came up with some Mets, being Mets cap, the Mets colors, but it would have some special Texas design, because next year it's gonna be in a Dallas area at that new stadium. So I wouldn't mind that, as long as the cap is the Mets colors, but keep the jersey, the because next year it's a similar thing. They would be wearing the visiting jerseys in National League, so they'd be wearing the road grays, And I don't mind that in the All. They could put the All Star Game patch on the sleeve of the jersey. And they could also put a patch. Like I thought that was cool the time that they had like a star on their jerseys that had the number of times they had been to the All Star Game. I thought that was a nice little nod, like recognizing the history and recognizing the achievement that these players have gone to the All Star Game and recognizing how many times they've been to the All Star Game. That was kind of a nice little nod. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. So this year, Pete would have. This was his. I think this would have been his. This would have been his. I think.
I think it's his third. It's either his third or his fourth.
Yeah. It would have been his fourth. He would have been wearing a four.
Yeah. So no, you're
Yeah,
right, and I agree.
yeah. There should have been a star. Pete should have had on it somewhere in a jersey. And they should have had like a star with the four representing the four times he's been to the All Star Game, and of course, Singer should have had one representing, with one representing his first time in the All Star Game. Hopefully, first of many.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Very very cool seeing Senga out there. I think Senga as probably the Mets' best starting pitcher this season. I think he definitely
Yeah,
deserved the nod, right?
yep. Actually, I'm hoping Singa did a good job talking to Shohei Ohtani to come to Queens. I know Seattle was trying to do their chance. I'm gonna say I'm gonna potentially buy a ticket when Anaheim comes to City Field if Shohei hasn't already been traded by then. I'm gonna be chanting because he'll be a free agent either way. He's probably gonna go into free agency, whether we trade or not. But I'm gonna be chanting, "We want Singa, we want Singa." I want to make sure
Oh,
that
you mean Otani?
I meant Otani. Sorry, I got confused. Sorry. I'm sorry about the confuse. Sorry about the
It's
confusing Otani and Sing. Right, but I mean
It's
Otani.
understandable.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about it. All right. But anyway, I want to go to Otani. We want Shohei. We want Shohei. I want to. I'm gonna try to. Hopefully, I hope that all the Met fans chant that. Let Shohei Otani know the love we all have. But yeah, I just want to make sure Shohei knows that we want him. We want him here. He'll have the chance to have such a amazing legacy win here, and he'll be looked at forever here. Like he has a chance to build a nice legacy here as a Met if he signs with us and has lives up to the expectations. He will one day
Yeah.
see whatever. Well, since 17's retired with the Mets, whatever number he goes with as a Met, he'll have that legacy, that number of retirement. That he'll just have a nice legacy here in the here in the Flushing. Plus, I'm pretty sure Darren from the seven line, they do a great job. Darren does a great job at the seven line. He's probably just waiting at the bit to be able to design us, some T-shirts that some Shohei Ohtani related T-shirts on the seven line on his web on to sell on his website.
Yeah, it's true, man. I mean, everybody is just waiting to see what Otani's choice is, and to be honest, I think that he's going to be a Met next year. I do not think that Steve Cohen is going to be outbid.
Yeah, exactly. This off season, it's gonna feel like that. Remember that off season when the Knicks thought they were gonna get? We thought the Knicks were gonna get LeBron James. It's gonna be
Yep.
like that. It's gonna be a riveting show. Like every day, I'm gonna be checking the SNY Twitter account, checking all the Twitter accounts, watching Sports Night every night, anticipating this announcement. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna be a wild winter, regardless of what happens with this season. Hopefully, Shohei is signing with the defending world champion because I just feel like this team is gonna. It's not the second half. It's 90 wins or bust.
Well,
But yeah,
Dan, actually, well, while you're on that, actually, let's jump into that because right now the Mets 42-48. They lost two out of three to San Diego to finish that first half. Now, we're looking at this right now, 42-48. If we're gonna do the old Mike Francesa, where they like to take a look at exactly what you're gonna have to do. So right now, the Mets have played 90 games. They got 72 games left. So you figure if the Mets are going to win 90 games, they're going to have to get to, let's see, 48 wins out of those 72. So I mean, it's gonna be pretty tough. They're gonna have to be winning on a day in day out basis. Do you think that this team's up to it? And by the way, Dan, do you think that Billy Epler is gonna pick up a couple of pieces that can help get us there?
I feel like Billy Epler is going to do it. He doesn't need to do like a big move, like sell out too much of the farm, but he needs to make those moves that like Atlanta made when they went on that run. He needs
I
to make those
totally
moves.
agree.
He needs to make those kind of moves that'll bolster this team, and we'll have a good chance. He needs to go on a couple of big winning streaks. And I mean, I could quote that line in Major League Two all day, but that's what we need to do. I'm ready for this big second half. Also, a big, a big charge list to Robert Manfred because Friday's game is on Apple TV. I can't watch it because I can't afford an Apple TV subscription. I gotta go to a bar to I gotta ask a couple of bars. Are you gonna be running the Apple TV game? I might have to check with Donovan if they're running Apple TV somewhere because I want to watch this game. I want to fucking watch this game. I'm not gonna. I know Apple TV new subscribers 3 months, but I don't want to exercise that 3 months free of Apple TV option until maybe September if the Mets are in a playoff race. Because I want to make sure not miss a game in September. So if the Mets are in a playoff race and there's a couple of Apple TV broadcasts in September, I will exercise that 3 months option to make sure that I can watch that every game of that pennant race. Peacock
That's
somehow
true.
I got a subscription to Peacock, so I'm not worried about that. I'll get
Hmm.
access to the game on Peacock. But I
Yeah.
also have, but aside from that, I'll be able to hopefully most of the rest of the season, I'll be hopefully most almost just about all the games remaining. Hopefully, I'll just be able to turn on my TV, not have to hook up anything that access some of the apps. I can go on my TV, watch, my remote put hopefully SNY, and that's another thing I'm bummed out. The first series out of the gate in the second half, the Gary, Keith, and Ron don't return to the booth until Sunday. I got we
Yeah.
got we got we got we got Apple TV and Fox. We got two groups of announcers that do everything but fucking call the game. Fucking call the game. No need to do these interviews or their bullshit talking. Call the fucking game.
Yeah, yeah, and you know the point that you make too. That's even makes more sense about that is that Keith Hernandez is on an extended vacation, so we're not even going to be getting Keith Hernandez joining the Mets booth back until I believe July 22nd.
At least SNY's got a couple of good people filling in, and at least we'll have Ron on Sunday. But by
Hmm.
the way, if you need people to if you need anyone, I have a good recommendation for someone. If you want to hire someone to fill in for Ron or Keith, may I recommend a fellow by the name of Matt Iceman? Hopefully Matt's watching this and sees this because I feel like he could do a good job calling baseball games because
Well, how about
he played
well, no, you
baseball in college, so I
yes,
feel
yes,
like he knows.
he's a great athlete, Matt Iceman, Dan.
Yeah,
But I do have one thing that I would like to alter to your plan because I do think it's a great plan. Now, Gary, Keith, and Ron is the normal team, right? So how
yeah.
about if Gary, Keith, and Ron are not available, they get me, you, and Mr. Matt Iceman to be the backup trio.
That would be one amazing super trio. I mean, we have at least one. We'll have at least one person that played baseball on a high level. I mean, college the high it's a pretty high level if you play baseball in college. But so I
Oh
think
yeah,
that would be good. Plus, the other reason why I think Matt's a good fill in announcer. He does an amazing job. I look at even though Ninja Warrior's package, it's a game show. I feel like it's a sporting event, even though it's packaged as a game show. realistically, it's a sporting event. Those guys are incredible athletes. If you've seen it, if you've watched the show, and if you've been to tapings, especially if you've seen it in person, those guys are incredible athletes. Matt does a great job with his. I feel like he's got the to do sports commentary.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right.
Plus,
I mean, that would be
plus,
right up Matt Iceman's. Yeah, that'd be right up his alley. You know.
plus during the Olympics, the Pete, I noticed on Peacock during the Olympics, he does interviews with Olympic athletes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, see, that's the thing. When you're a guy like Matt Iceman, that guy he's been in the media business for so long. He knows exactly what to do. He's not going to make any missteps, and he's a complete professional. So I totally agree with you. I think that would be a fantastic idea. You
But
definitely can't beat that.
plus, I think it'd be easy for SNY to get Matt Iceman because SNY is co-owned by NBC Universal, the same network that Matt does stuff with.
Very true. Very true. So as we keep moving along here, Dan, we'll touch since we just did the Mets. Let's do the Yankees real quick, and then we'll look back at the All Star Game for a moment. As we saw the Yankees right now, Yankees are 49-42. They also lost 2 out of 3 to end their first half, but they are also 19-23 without Aaron Judge. He's been down for about the last 6 weeks plus. Ever since he got injured at Dodger Stadium. Dan, what are you thinking? Do the Yankees have enough to keep this up? Because I think the addition of Rodon to their rotation is a really big plus for them.
I agree too, but I also agree that I'm not going to hear the Yankee fans, but the Yankees don't look like this daunting team. Like they're playing some tough competition in the AL East. Like, I mean, if you look at the standings right now, the Yankees are on the outside looking in. They're,
Yeah.
they're it's not going to be a walk in the park for the Yankees. Like all you people who remember the '90s, like even people my sister's age who for a while just knew up until 2008, like the Yankees making the playoffs every year. This is not that same Yankees team. This is the Yankees team that looks kind of human. They just don't look like those imposing Yankee teams in the '90s and into the 2000s anymore.
Yeah, it's true, man. And they open up the second half against the Colorado Rockies. Garrett Cole going against them to kick it off this Friday.
What I do have to say is I feel like if you wanted to place a bet on maybe what some Yankee players are doing stats wise in this game, I don't know about the outcome of the game because Colorado is such a crapshoot because you can't fucking pitch in Colorado.
Yeah, it's true.
But I feel like some certain hitters, you could play some bets, maybe get some nice extra pocket change because because there might be some padding some stats in that thin air in Colorado. As a matter of fact, beat the streak on MLB.com.
Yeah.
I decided to double down on the game on Friday, and I don't have time to look it up now who I went with, but I went with Pete Alonso in one of the games on Friday, and one of the games I think I went with one of the Yankee players. I predicted one of the Yankee players to get a hit on beat the streak to double down, so it'll count as getting 2 hits on that day. And I figured the Colorado factor was a factor into that decision I made. Who I predicted to get a hit on a Friday.
Makes sense, man. And one of the guys that as soon as you said that, one of the names that popped right in my head for guys that could possibly pad their stats this weekend for Colorado. Although to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. The series might be in Yankee Stadium. I'm not 100% positive, but
no, it's in Colorado.
Oh, it is okay.
Yeah,
but
for those of you who are from outside the New York area, not many people know this, but they actually MLB kind of works with the city of New York to try to set it up as little as possible that the Mets and the Yankees are home at the same time, because in order to try to alleviate some of the stress on some of the traffic congestion in the city on days like that. it has happened sometimes where the Mets and the Yankees are home on the same time. There, I mean, there was even one time because of a rain out earlier in the season, the Mets and the Yankees they were playing a doubleheader, and that doubleheader was a two stadium doubleheader, and I attended that in 2008, both ends of it, Mets versus Yankees. I that was
Oh
a fun,
yeah.
that was a fun experience doing that. For one thing, that was officially the well, aside from the 2008 All Star Game, that was that. Aside from that, that regular season game, the day portion of it, it was a day night separate admission and the day portion was at Old Yankee Stadium. And this is the last year for both stadiums, which made it even more interesting. So the day portion was at Yankee Stadium. The Mets won in that blowout. Remember that? I'm not sure you remember that bomb Carlos Delgado hit in that game for the Mets.
One of two he hit that day.
Yeah, this was the last time the Mets were the visiting team at Old Yankee Stadium, so that was pretty neat to get to do that. So I kind of look at
Absolutely,
that
man.
as like the last time I went to Old Yankee Stadium was that game, and then
Very true.
after that, and there was enough time to get to Che for the nightcap, because thanks to the fact I'm using public transportation, thanks to our public transportation system and the subways will get you there quicker. I was able to get there in
Mhm.
time for the nightcap at Che,
Very true. Very true.
which was
Now,
pretty fun.
now, Dan, if I was going to put a an over under on the Yankees win total this year, if I was going to put it at 92, would you say the Yankees are going to be under that win total or over?
I think they might be barely under that win total, because I just feel like Toronto is just carrying this momentum. Like they just look good during the regular season. Toronto, Tampa, even Baltimore. Who would have thought Baltimore during going into the season was going to be a contender? But it seems all those years of Baltimore tanking, their farm hands are finally coming up. They look like they're going to be they're in contender status. So I just feel like it's 50-50 if the Yankees make the playoffs.
Well, make the playoffs. I agree with you because you never really know. I still think, especially with the 7 teams, the Yankees might not win the division, but I think the Yankees are making the playoffs no matter what. But I'll tell you this too: I think the Yankees are going over that 92 win total because they always do. The Yankees always find a way to get over that win total, and you know sure we've seen them have a crappy month or so with a Judge being down, but Judge is going to come back. He's going to be back before August 1st. That means the Yankees are going to have 2 solid months to make up all this lost ground they've made up. And while I do agree with you, the American League East is going to be very tough because Tampa Bay obviously is the class of that division right now. Toronto is still a very formidable team, and Baltimore has been out of this world this season. I agree with you. And if I'm gonna look at the Yankees though, I do think that they're gonna be over that 92 win total. So, it's gonna be a long road for the Yankees in the second half. Aaron Boone is gonna have to you know be on his best game because, to be honest, he pissed a lot of Yankee fans off on Sunday when he took Domingo Herman out, who was cruising along against the Cubs, and then the bullpen just coughed that game up and cost the Yankees that series. I want your thoughts real quick on the All Star Game from last night. I mean, does the All Star Game mean as much to you as it used to? Like, when the National League used to win when I was a kid, I remember 94, 95, 96. When the National League actually won those games, that meant a lot to me. I remember being pissed off in 2002 when that game ended in a tie. But to be
Yeah,
honest, with all the way they screw with the games these days, the
yeah,
National League won yesterday. Now is happy, but I don't think it means as much as it used to.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if it means anything, but I love watching golf. I love baseball, and it's especially a lot of fun if you get to be there and go to the Fan Fest, which is a lead-up event. They usually do it at a convention center, the Fan Fest and stuff.
Oh
Like it's
yeah.
just like all the lead up to the event. It's a lot of fun. So I feel great.
You there, Dan?
But yeah, they just used to. It used to be a lot better when they had announcers that actually called the game.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what, too? They also do all this crazy extra crap now with the where they got the pitcher, and the players in the field with a microphone on. And yesterday they're talking to Josh Hader as he's trying to pitch in the inning, and the guy's trying to throw a ball, and they're talking to him. So as he's pitching, he's talking to these guys in the microphone, and you see he's releasing the ball, and it's trailing into the left-hander's batter's box because he's not aiming the ball because he's busy talking to these guys, and he gave a base hit to the opposite field. I don't like the whole talking to the players mid-inning thing.
Yeah, I just feel like it's not. I don't like it, especially with pitchers. I feel like it's setting up to making it easier for players to get injured. Also,
You're
what?
right about that too, because how many guys are going to take their eye off the ball or not pay full attention? And never know. Maybe they trip over their own feet and get hurt. Maybe they get hit by the ball. There's 1,000 different ways to get hurt in a baseball game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind it if they're talking to maybe a player that's already, one of the all stars that have already exited the game, like just, got a couple
Yeah,
of at bats in the game and they're in the dugout now. I don't mind that. They can talk to those players, but not the players that are on the field or at bat or pitching. Players that are actively in the game, you don't talk to them. You could even talk to the managers. It's okay, but don't talk to the players when they're actually actively in the game. You could talk to them after the game, like after their outings in the All Star game, after they've gotten that whatever however many innings they took part in. When they're sitting on the dugout, that's okay, but not on the field. Not on the field,
yeah,
guys.
I totally agree. Um, you know, and not even just let these guys concentrate on the game. I totally agree. Once they come out of the game, you can do whatever you want. You can talk to them. You can, get as much content as you want. But for the guys
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are in there playing the game, let them concentrate on the game.
yeah, exactly. Believe me. Like for example, I wouldn't mind. Like let's say Pete Alonso was a starter in the All Star game, and after he's sitting in the dugout, I wouldn't mind that. He talk to Pete for a little bit. He's just a lot of fun. He's a real ass dude when he talks. All right. I know some people kind of say like when he accidentally dropped a bomb, but the guy is just too excited and it's just a spur of the moment thing. But it's just a lot of fun. You have to admit.
Wait,
Like
so Dan, are you saying that he is the Luis J. Gomez of the Mets?
yeah, exactly. As far as
he's
they
a
see him, he's a real
he's
he's a real ass dude.
exactly. So yeah, as we keep moving on though, Dan, I because I agree with you 100%. Um, let's look at what did you think of the home run derby? Vladdy
Well,
Jr. took home that crown.
later on we're gonna go to that. We have little new segments on the show today, but that I thought. Well, unfortunately, I was rooting for Pete to win it, but he didn't win it. But I am happy for Vladdy Jr. to win that because Vladdy Jr. just made history, being the first time the son of a past home run derby winner has won the home run derby. In case you're not aware of the stats, well, your history
Yeah.
in 2007 in San Francisco during that All Star week, uh, Vladimir Guerrero Sr. won the home run derby. So this is the first
Hmm.
time we have a father and son home run derby champ.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And
Very,
and
very cool.
and if I'm correct, that even though officially since Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was born in Quebec, that officially makes him the first Canadian, in a way, the first Canadian to win the All Star game. I realize he was born
Wow.
in he was
That,
born
that's
he was
yeah,
born
that's
in
true.
Canada.
Hmm. Very, very
So
true.
the whole thing, I think that means I think that means he's got Canadian citizenship. He was born in Canada, so he might be officially the first Canadian to win the home run derby.
Wow, that's true. That's true. Yeah, because I think Larry Walker and Jason Bay were both in the home run derby, who are both Canadians, but neither of them actually won it. So yeah, you're probably right that technically he is the first Canadian to win that honor. Very cool, very cool. And
Yeah,
yeah, and actually last year he hit a home run in the home run derby. I'm sorry, in the All Star game to become just the third pair of father and son to homer in the All Star game. So now
yeah,
him and his dad have both homered in the All Star game, and now they've both won the home run derby. So that's
and
pretty
and
cool.
and they're on the pace potentially to be the first. Well, I forgot. I'm not sure if this ever happened before, but we could be seeing a father-son Hall of Famers. I mean, his dad was such a great player back in his heyday. I feel he could have been. I feel maybe sometimes his later years, I could tell he kind of got worn out a little bit because when back then he played in Montreal and that turf was a rough surface. So I could tell he kind of got a little worn from the rough surface, but Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was a great player and a Hall of Famer, and his son is he just has that same athletic ability in him as a,
Yeah,
and I
you're
feel
right.
like we could be seeing a father son Hall of Famers, and both have kind of legacies in Canada. And for those of you who might be too young to remember it, there once used to be a team in Montreal, and that team unfortunately the and then to the tragic of some of the fans in Montreal, that team moved to moved to Washington D.C. to become what we know as the Washington Nationals today. But there used to, for those of you who may be too young to remember it, there used to be a team in Montreal.
Yes, there did. There used to be a team in Montreal, the Montreal Expos, and unfortunately not there anymore. But I do hear that there's a possibility they could be coming back when Major League Baseball potentially expands in a couple of years.
I know a few people on social media from the Montreal area that be happy about that, seeing their city get a team. Hopefully they do a better job this time because for those of you who don't know your history, the '94. I mean, people in still say Montreal would have won the World Series in 1994 had that strike not happened. They were on a pace to have an amazing season in '94, and unfortunately, the baseball strike happened. May have also, and after that happened, the team wasn't the same again the following years, and they were selling off the team, and they were just tanking so many years that it just the fan it just drove it it drove the fans away from the stadium. Unfortunately, that kind of led to them moving. Hopefully, that and they didn't make that push to build a new to replace that aging stadium in Montreal. Hopefully, this time they do a good job. They do a good job doing it right this time when they get a team if they get an expansion team in Montreal.
Well said, Dan. Well said. Yeah, we unfortunately lost out in '94 on that potential Yankees and Expos World Series because those were the two best teams in baseball when they struck. So Buck Showalter's Yankees and Felipe Alou's um, Montreal Expos never met in that World Series. And it's probably good for
Yeah,
us, though.
yeah, exactly. And of course, unfortunately, it's another one of Buck Showalter's unfortunate come you know just missing out on him as he's gone through many times, and hopefully he could finally get that. He could finally manage a world championship team with the Mets. So hopefully,
Very
that'd be
true.
nice.
Very true. But just like he was for the Mets last year, in that 1994 season, Buck Showalter was the AL Manager of the Year. So, a very cool way to tie it all together there. So, as
Yeah.
we keep rolling along here, Dan, um, I did want to point out that me and you had discussed the possibility of this a week or two ago, but it was officially announced today that the New York Jets have been officially selected for HBO Hard Knocks. Apparently no team in the NFL wanted to do it. And there were only four teams, including the Jets, Bears, Saints, and one other team, I forget, that can be forced to do it. And obviously with, the young team the Jets have and Aaron Rodgers and New York and all that stuff, they were the obvious choice that that HBO would want, So
Yeah.
It's official. It's going to happen. What do you think, Dan? As a Giants fan, it's still kind of cool seeing one of the local teams on HBO now, right?
Yeah, it's cool. On one hand, I would think it'd be cool to see my team. I know the NFL. I know HBO would love to one day have the Giants do it, but they seem to be keen on not wanting to do it. But I hear the deal now. They changed that deal now that teams have to be. They're now forced to do hard knocks. It does seem neat, but at the same time, I just feel bad for the Jets fans and the players on the Jets have to go through. I don't think they want to deal with that distraction.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a very big distraction, but you know what, Dan? The way I've been looking at it is, a couple of months ago, if you had asked me, Rob, do you want the Jets to be on Hard Knocks? I would have looked you dead in the eye and said, no, I don't want the Jets anywhere near Hard Knocks. Now, I still kind of feel that way, but the fact of the matter is that the Jets don't have a choice. The NFL and HBO are forcing them to do this show whether they like it or not. Now, the way I'm looking at it is, yeah, I would prefer not to have any distractions there. But I mean, let's be honest. The Jets and all NFL players, all these guys we've had on our teams, you know, they're used to having a camera in their face. They're used to NFL films. The Jets have their own in-house thing that they call One Jets Drive that they put out a couple of videos a year where they they have the cameras and the guys' faces and everything. So these guys are used to it, so what the way I'm looking at it is if the Jets have a bad year this year, it's not going to be because of Hard Knocks. You know what I mean? Like if the
Yeah,
Jets have a bad year this year, it's because we vastly overrated this team and they just weren't ready for prime time. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. At the same time, if your Jets win this whole thing, you're probably gonna want to buy that Blu-ray box set of this season of Hard Knocks. You're gonna want and you're probably gonna be having watched it that whole season many times. Like you're gonna look back on that season many times, and you're
Dan,
probably gonna
yeah, I'm sorry, continue.
and because I know SNY sometimes runs some Jets content. Sometimes they'll run some little shows that cover the Jets. They do like the pre and post game.
Hmm.
You're probably gonna be they're probably gonna be rerunning. They'll rerun that Hard Knocks like crazy if the Jets win the Super Bowl.
Dan, you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Because it's funny you say that because I actually recently just found myself watching on YouTube. They have the old 2010 Jets from the last time they were on, and they have Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez and all the guys from Brian Schottenheimer and all the guys from that team, LaDainian Tomlinson, Bart Scott, go down the list, right? So I was rewatching it, and you are 100% right because I was looking at it and thinking to myself, wow, this was the last time that my Jets were actually a really good team, and it's so cool to be able to look at this, and it's like a documentary of the last time my team was relevant. You know what I mean? So I agree
Yeah,
with you. If this ends up being a great year, and whether they win the Super Bowl or if they just have a good year and make the playoffs and get knocked out, like you're right, this is going to be a team that I want to remember. So it's kind of cool that it ended up working out this way because it's like you almost have that extra built-in documentary team working on them.
yeah, exactly. And by the way, I have to say I was about to make a joke that it was saying, yeah, there's probably some footage of Rex Ryan in that documentary bragging about how much he loves his wife's feet.
Yeah, you're right. That was that season too that whole little thing broke out. So you're right about that.
Yeah, yeah. I actually found out a little fact about that. Rex Ryan was actually offered to do a Dr. Scholl's commercial. He had turned out an offer for him and his wife to do a Dr. Scholl's commercial that would have been aired during the Super Bowl.
I can't believe that Rex turned that down, knowing Rex.
Yeah, he actually turned that offer.
Very funny. Very funny, man. So, okay, yeah, I wanted to touch on that for a couple of minutes because that's going to be really cool. I really can't wait to watch it, actually. I think it's going to be a ton of great content, stuff me and you can talk about on the show. And it's going to be a lot of fun, right?
I have to say, NFL Films does a great job. I mean, you go way back. I love going on YouTube and watching those NFL highlight films because they did a brilliant decision years ago when they wanted to the NFL wanted to capture highlights and present the game of football. They looked to a guy that worked at a Hollywood movie studio, a guy that was like I think he was like a director of cinematography and stuff. He decided to capture the action on the field the way like a Hollywood production, the way they capture all those camera angles he was given access to, the audio of the game, the players, the way they were mic'd, even the music. He took a cue from Hollywood with the music. They always had great production values on those highlight films. And I
It's
just
true.
love seeing those highlight films like football years ago, seeing all these Hall of Famers and just getting a keen eye to what football was like years ago. I mean, you see some stuff that you can't do in the NFL anymore these days.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, there's some, but it's just cool seeing those highlights
Oh, no
and
doubt about it, man.
just getting a keen eye to what pro football was like years ago.
Yeah. And nobody does it better than NFL Films. Totally, totally agree. And actually, before we move on from football, I did want to mention that next week we're going to be having a special guest on the show for our football preview episode for 2023. You know, we didn't do one last year because, to be honest, even though me and you could be kind of optimistic about our teams, me and you both weren't really expecting much out of our teams. But this year,
Yeah, exactly.
right? But this year, we're going to have a full on pre training camp edition, talking about Jets, talking about Giants, and we're going to have our special guest, Jake Asman from ESPN Radio in Houston. Jake, he does radio in Houston now, but he is a lifelong Jets fan. He is a New Yorker, and he's a guy that he knows the Giants, he knows the Jets. He's a big Yankees fan. So Jake is a New Yorker. It's going to be really cool to have him on next week. And I think it'll be pretty fun to have an ESPN personality on with us, right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, a guy who's like he's on a major sports talk station. And I'm sure I'm gonna get a couple of people on social media who are maybe in the Houston area who might be familiar with him in the ESPN radio Houston. They probably might say, "Oh, oh, that's a good job. You had our local sports talk guy on your show." So I'm eager to see some of the comments I might get on social media from the people in the Houston area about that.
Very true. It's a good point, man. And it's going to be really cool. Looking forward to have Jake on. Really, really awesome. And if you're a Jets fan or just a football fan in general, go to Jake's YouTube page, the Jake Asman Show, and please subscribe. And even if you want, go on his Patreon and subscribe there as well. A lot of great content, no doubt about it. But we do have the finale segment is going to be the first time we're going to do a Bobo's top 5 plays of the week. But
Yep, and
what were you going to say, Dan?
oh no, I was about to break. I was about to break into my intro,
Oh, okay,
but
we'll do that 1 second. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to cover one other good piece of news that me and you are definitely happy about. Is that yesterday the New York Rangers came to terms with Keandre Miller on a 2-year deal, a little less than $8 million, about 3.8 a year. That's really, really good for the Rangers because there was a little bit of concern that Keandre Miller could want somewhere around $5 million a year, which really would have screwed the Rangers when it came to signing their last RFA, who is Alexis Lafreniere, who they probably are going to be given about $2.1 million on a 2-year deal to. But what do you think of this deal, Dan? I think it was imperative the Rangers got this contract done because, as you well know, Keandre Miller is one of the Rangers' most important players.
Yeah, exactly. This guy just has enough toughness. Like sometimes you need that enforcer mentality on a hockey team, and he's been doing an admirable job as that. And I'm glad we were able to get him on a nice cap friendly deal.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, and it leaves just enough space to get Lafreniere in. So I think now we pretty much see the vision that Chris Drury has for this team. And even though they did sign a couple of veterans like Pitlick and a couple of those guys in the fourth line, Bonino and a few of those other names, I do think they're going to be giving guys like Will Cooley and Brendan Othman a legitimate shot to make this team. So we pretty much know now what this Rangers team is going to look at. Just the final piece is re-signing Alexis Lafreniere, and I don't think that's going to be very far away, right?
No, that's not going to be very far away. It's a done deal as far as I see it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. Now, there's not much to really throw out there. So, but I just wanted to cover that real quick because that's a big piece for the Rangers, no doubt about that. So let's go ahead and get into it, Dan. We got Bobo's top five. We got this
Yep,
little
yep,
intro though. Hold on, before we jump into it, Dan, let me just play this little intro for you. Because let's see, here we go.
with the top 5 moments in New York sports since we last broadcast. I got this. This list is published direct from the offices in Huntsville, Alabama. Our top number 5. We got to go with Kodai Senga's really brilliant. Probably his best outing he had versus Arizona in Arizona on July 5th. That was just a brilliant outing. He kept the Mets in the game. And our bats came through late in the game to make sure Kodai was not going to be denied this win.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely right about that. That was probably the best we've seen from Kodai Senga, right?
Yeah, I knew this guy was gonna once he got his little adjusted to being in the majors, it was gonna be fine. Also, number 4, we have Francisco Lindor's 5-hit game versus Arizona on July 6th. That was one of Francisco's best outings of the year. And
left center.
He should have been an all-star.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. He definitely got screwed. I mean, you have 18 home runs and 60 RBIs as a shortstop. How the hell do you not get in the All Star game?
Yeah, you know who I blame? Because you know how the managers pick the reserves? It's because the manager was the manager of the Phillies. Boo!
Boo! You're right about that.
Yeah. The manager of the National League All Stars was unfortunately the Phillies manager. Hopefully next year it's Buck that gets to make that decision.
Oh, you got that right.
And also, we got number 3, that 10-win extra inning Mets win on July 7th. That was one heck of a win. I was like on the edge of my seat. I was not calm until the very end of this game. And I think I woke up Mr. Malunigan. This was an away game on the West Coast, so of course Mr. Malunigan was going to wake up with me going nuts after this game.
Of course, man. And yeah, that was a hell of a win. I mean, big hit by McNeil to bring home the automatic runner in the 10th. Almost as big, or maybe even bigger, hit by Francisco Alvarez to get another extra runner in there. So yeah, you're definitely right, man.
And of course, the number 2, I have to say that home run derby performance. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero made home run derby history, the first father and son home run derby champs.
Here we go. Here we got the number 2. The number 2. Let's let the.
Do it.
Let's listen to this for a sec.
Guerrero Jr. will hang on and win the 2023 T-Mobile Home Run Derby.
Yeah, what a night. Guerrero Jr. defeated the Rays' Randy Arozarena.
Just really, really awesome to see that, right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure all of Canada was happy about that as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Vladdy Jr. joining his dad among the home run derby winners. One thing before we move on from this, Dan, what do you think of this split screen business they had going on for most of this? With the, I know here we got there, but like you see the split screen right there. Like, I don't really like that. I feel like a lot of the time we're waiting for the ball to land, and he's already got 3 other home runs going out.
Yeah, exactly. What that was such an amazing thing. And drum roll, please. The number one moment that's happened since we last broadcasted the sports. That eighth eighth inning game go ahead home run in the All Star game last night by Elias Diaz for the Colorado Rockies. Who of course also was the All Star Game MVP in that game. That was their number one moment.
And you're right about that. And let's check that out. Bobo's number one play of the week.
Not going. 2-2 to Diaz. Is hit in the air to deep left field. Back it goes. Elias Diaz puts the National League in front. At 32 years old in his All-Star debut, a go-ahead home run.
Really, really awesome job there. Elias Diaz from the Rockies cranking one out to give the National League their first victory in 11 years. Awesome stuff, right, Dan?
Yeah, awesome stuff. Also, this is the first time I've seen an All-Star Game MVP didn't get awarded a car, which I think I actually said something on Facebook. I thought never made sense to why they give the MVPs of these championship games and All-Star games a brand new car when they kind of make enough money that they can buy a high-end car on their own.
That's true.
What I feel they need to do with the All-Star game, maybe do something that give a car to a random fan in the stands. That sounds like a nice idea. As a matter of fact, I think it'd be even cooler if they did it one step further. Let's say like the MVP was of the All-Star game was someone that played for the Mets. Maybe they could allow the players to improvise on who gets the car. Like maybe say like, hey, is there a Mets fan in the stand? And they could try to have someone like look for a Mets fan in the stand, someone a stadium worker, and say like, oh, you over there in the upper deck, guess what? You're getting a brand new car. And they could have the MVP, the All-Star game, present the keys to the fan that won that car.
I love that idea, Dan. Absolutely, man. As the top 5, giving out some great ideas. I love it. I love it. And
I even think that they could take that one step further. Do that at the World Series. Similar thing at the World Series. They could find a fan of the winning team if it's a road game, because I'm sure there'd be some away fans like. The fan of the winning team, random fan of the winning team, gets to be presented a brand new car from the MVP of the World Series. That's a cool idea for the World Series as well.
It sounds like a win-win. I mean, I totally agree, man. No doubt about that. And I think that's just about going to do it for us today, Dan. But before we get out of here, and before we give any plugs too, we do want to cover this. I do want to put up this a GoFundMe that your mother asked us to share. And Dan, take the floor, please.
I'll explain it. All right, this is a family that my mom knows very well. She knows them very well. What happened was one of their kids passed away from a brain tumor very recently, and they set up a GoFundMe to raise the money for funeral expenses. And it was very tragic. This kid's name was Augie. I never really got to meet him and stuff like that, but I would hear wonderful stories about him, how wonderful his kid was, and this is just tragic for the family that they lost. They lost such a kid that they were gonna get to know a lot of the rest, a lot of stuff that in his life. This kid wanted to be a firefighter when he growed up, and I heard a fire department in the area in NYC made him an honorary fireman. He'll never get to know what that. He'll never get to live that dream, and it's just it's tragic, and my hearts go out to all these family dealing with this tragedy, and I hope you can find it kind within your heart to help their family with the funeral expenses that they're gonna have to deal with in this tragic situation at the moment.
And we all know how expensive everything having to do with that is. So, please, if you have any bit of money that you could lend to this family in need, we would really, really appreciate it. God bless Augie, and God bless everybody that is chipping in to help Augie's family. So definitely wanted to make sure that we did that and gave the proper respect to Augie and his family. So please, if you have the means, please give to Augie and his family. We really, really appreciate that. And Dan, on that note, before we get out of here, do you have anything that you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure, you could follow me on Twitter, Bobo103NYC. You could also catch me on Instagram, Bobo718DK. Also on YouTube, Daniel Curl, and there's some Bobo content there. And of course, if you also happen to run into me at a Mets game or something, do definitely say hi. I'm always happy to say maybe speak to the fans a little bit. Even a photo if you want a photo. I'm always nice enough to do that. So definitely say hi. I'm always happy to chat with my fellow fans and viewers of the show. So just be more welcome. If you happen to see me and I'm not too busy, I could have a couple of words with you.
Absolutely. If you see Dan in public, go say hi to the guy. He's a pleasure to talk to. So do yourself a favor and check out everything that he's doing there. If you'd like to, also please check us out on Twitter at @bsith_podcast. You can check me out there at my last name Cramer NY as well. And you can also check us out on Instagram at Best Seat in the House Podcast. And don't forget, we're also on YouTube where you can like and subscribe to us under Best Seat in the House Podcast and under the same name on Rumble. So please, if you haven't already, like us, subscribe, give us a nice review. We'd really appreciate it. And also, our friends. Make sure to support our friends like Eastside Dave, who is a great friend of ours, and Jake Asman, who will be appearing on our show next week, and anybody else, the great Bob Levy, who was on our show earlier this year. Make sure to support everybody. We're family here in the podcasting world, and we really appreciate it.
I think there's an IWF show coming up in August also. We got to recognize Kevin Knight, who we had on the show, great friend.
Kevin Knight was the first guest ever for us, so you're right about that. As a matter of fact, we will be putting out a invitation to Kevin Knight to join us here at some point in the next couple of weeks, because he's great and he's a big Mets fan. So it'd be nice to see what Kevin thinks of how our Mets are doing this year too. Right, Dan?
Exactly.
All right. So I guess that's going to do it for us this week. So once again, thank you to everybody for joining us and checking us out and taking the time to spend with us here as you do every week. So for Best Seat in the House Podcast, I'm Rob Cramer. This is Daniel Bobo Curlin, and we'll catch you next week.